step I take, I move my truth. Every time they tell me stop, I use every comment, hate that makes my fuel. Gather up my energy and boom, I hear them talking, saying the way that I move is so reckless. That is a part of my mind I've been blessed with, giving my blood so I am relentless.
All right, this is a Keep Hammering Collective. I'm with Bo Nickal. It's nice to have you here.
Yeah, great to be here. Had a great day.
Man, what a day. It was, yeah, I mean, you know, I went on a pretty good run of a lot of podcasts back to back to back, and then I had hunting season, and then kind of just been getting back into it now. I think I have 3 more podcasts to do by the end of the year. So I was like, I was in really good shape before season. and anybody who'd come, I'd be like, okay, I'm going to be ready, you know, from all these freaks. But then, you know, Rihanna was talking to you about getting you here. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I got a beast coming and I'm not in shape. I'm not in shape. So it was a great day, but I was a little nervous getting you in here because I mean, for those who don't know, Bo is like, you know, a UFC, not a veteran, like kind of a newcomer now. What are you, 2 or 3-0?
2-0 in the UFC, yeah.
Yeah, and what are you overall?
5-0.
5-0.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, but you're the guy everybody's talking about. You know, I mean, there's the names everybody knows, and like they've been in the mix for the championship belts and everything for years. And then there's you who's like coming up and everybody says, that's the guy, right? All the experts are saying, that's the guy, that's you. So it's exciting to have you here. I mean, it's a big honor. I followed you for a while. I know about your I don't know, not even just college, but all your wrestling pedigree for 20 years, I think. And yeah, so it's exciting to have you here.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. I was honestly like in the same boat as you with hunting and stuff, and I wasn't necessarily in like 100% shape where I'd like to be. So when I knew I was coming out here, I was like, frick, I better be ready because y'all, I know you get after it. But yeah, it was great, you know, and I'm just grateful that I get to be here, that I get to hang out with you and learn and chat and talk. So yeah, it's been pretty cool for me as well.
What'd you think of the mountain carrying the rock?
It's no joke. I feel like I need to get some more of that. I was, you know, we were talking earlier, but I definitely, you know, most of my conditioning training is my sport, right? Like, you know, rounds and sparring, rounds in the bag. I feel like that's what I've always kind of gravitated towards. But there's something about just getting out in nature, having it's really you in the mountain and a big ass rock.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's it, right? Like you got to get to a place in your mind, like to get up there that, you know, it's not like you can make somebody quit. That rock in the mountain, like they're not quitting.
No, you did great. I mean, it is a grind. It's tough. I mean, Huberman said himself, it's the hardest cardio he's ever done. He's not a UFC fighter, but he's a beast
for sure.
You know, so it's that means something. And you did a great job. I mean, carried the rock the whole way. It's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about this too. In regard to training, you said you do like pretty much do your sport to train, and it was, you know, that type of training, the rock up the mountain, reminds me of, you know, you saw Tony Ferguson was just training with David Goggins, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And there's a lot of critics on. I don't know if you and Joe talked about this at all.
I don't think we did. No.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe briefly, but not much.
I'll mention Bo was just on like a pretty new podcast, the Joe Rogan Experience, yesterday. And so I was like, I'm hoping we don't cover the same material as you guys did. Probably not, because Joe's like smart and I'm dumb. So my questions are pretty basic. But I was wondering with Tony and Goggins, it's not really the skill set training.
Right.
You know, you said when you work out, you want to also be building skills.
For sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And they were training more of like a grinded out mentality, like a dog mentality.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I've thought about that some, and you know, the way I look at it, everybody's different, right? Like for me, that's kind of been what I feel like is best for me. And if somebody else, you know, wants to get a different style, a different type of training, I don't really judge that at all. I think that Tony's a proven top level world-class fighter. And, you know, if he thinks that's what he needs to do, like that's what he needs to do. There's no real, for me, I don't really like the idea, like, you know, talking about what this guy's doing or that guy's doing for training, you know, maybe we'll see in the results. I obviously am rooting for him. I hope that he goes out there and friggin' puts on a show, just because I'm a big fan of, the sport in general. And Tony Ferguson's he's been here forever. So I would love to see him go get a win, a fellow American wrestler, right? So, I think that I'm sure this training camp with Goggins was the hardest one he's ever done. I have no doubt about that. So yeah, I think he's going to do what's best for him. I'll do what's best for me. But I think there's definitely, after today and feeling what it felt like just to get up that mountain, I think there's some room for that type of training in anybody's camp. Well,
the most famous wrestler I know used to carry a log up and down stadium steps. Do you know who that is?
Yeah, yes, sir. Monster.
Vision Quest.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a classic.
How many times did you watch that movie?
I've watched that like a dozen times at least. Yeah, I love that movie. That's such a good one.
Me too. It worked for him.
They need to remake it.
I know.
Yeah.
They remake every other movie.
I know. Yeah, that would be great. I'm trying to think who they could get in there. They could get some good guys in there, I'm sure. But
yeah.
That'd be fun.
That was, I love that part of it. But that reminds me of that out of the box training.
I think so. Good.
I know.
I don't remember. But.
I haven't watched it in a while. But
Yeah.
I was thinking of that just now, just because of the whole, the wrestling. I wasn't involved in wrestling growing up. I mean, when I went to high school, we didn't even have wrestling.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there was no program, so everybody played. It's during football, right?
There's overlap. Yeah. There's a good amount.
Or is it during basketball?
So wrestling kind of runs like fall and spring typically. So it'll go from October through February, March. So the first half of football season and then the first half of basketball season, it kind of overlaps with both of them.
The last half of football, first half of basketball.
Last half of football.
Yeah. So I didn't, but since then, never having done it, following the UFC, you become a huge fan of wrestlers because it seems like wrestlers kind of set the pace. The fight generally happens where they want it to happen for the, not for the most part, but a lot of times. I mean, guys, that I can't imagine you got a wrestler over there who's really good at getting people on the ground and you're trying to fend off the takedown. That must be exhausting for people.
Yeah, I can imagine, for me, I always think about when I go into a fight, like I want my opponent to be worrying about as much things as possible. So, that's going to bring them a ton of anxiety. And you see it all the time with guys, like they have to respect that wrestling so much. And, there's certain guys that use that very well to their advantage. I think some wrestlers are also can be stubborn and tough. So some dudes just want to get in there and bang, right?
Yeah.
But, the guys that really use that wrestling tactically and psychologically against their opponent, I feel like those are the guys that do the best. The threat of something almost is more powerful than actually using it sometimes. So I try to take that with me. I'm wrestled for 20 years. That's always going to be my game. So I think where some guys, let it go a little too much. I'm trying to really, keep hammering that. Keep hammering.
I got it.
Keep hammering that. No pun intended. But and keep that, as a big part of my reputation in fighting.
Yeah, we talked about critics earlier. Everybody's got something to say, especially people who don't fight.
Definitely.
They're the experts. But people like to criticize Chandler on he doesn't wrestle enough, because he's went to Mizzou, I think was All-American.
Yeah.
Very good. But he does bang.
Oh, yeah. He loves it.
Yeah. So as people have said that, they mention his fight IQ. You know what I mean? Critics like to say stuff like that. But I think for him, especially hearing you just talk, it's the threat of that wrestling that keeps them honest. Absolutely. He doesn't even have to do it.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's for sure what it is. And every wrestler has a different style of wrestling. Michael Chandler, if you look at him, he's so explosive, so powerful. He's dynamic, and he can use that threat of wrestling to knock people out, which he's done throughout his entire career, right? He's not a guy, if you look back and watch his wrestling film, he wasn't a take you down, ride you out, hold you down on top guy. He was a takedown, blast through you, double leg you, smash you. That's how his wrestling translates to MMA. So, I think that everybody has a different style, and it applies differently to MMA. And for somebody to like criticize a guy who is at the top of the sport when more than likely the people criticizing them have 0 hours training or competing, it's like, come on, guys. Like, come on.
Yeah. I mean, we also talked about that people have an opinion, they're passionate about it.
Yeah.
So it's like, you get tired of hearing it, but also I guess they're paying your bills a little bit, you know, but I could imagine it's frustrating.
I think that it's important to, when you set your expectation for fans, it shouldn't be the same as your close friends, family, training partners, teammates, coaches. Like, you can't look at them and take everything they say so personally. Like, they don't know you, right? Like that's something that for me, going from wrestling, which is a very respectful sport, there's not a lot of trash talk, you know, maybe there here and there is, but people generally keep it like pretty classy, to especially fans, no, not every fan, but for the most part, to MMA, where it's like super hostile. And it's been really interesting because I know initially for me, at least, I would get pretty fired up, and I still get fired up here and there. Like, you know, I that stuff, it motivates me. It makes me want to train harder, do better, prove people that doubt me wrong. But at the same time, I'm like, all right, you know, let it be motivation. Don't let it be any more than that.
Yeah,
right?
distraction.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You can't be like, some dude says something to you and get all pissed off and want to like fight a guy in the street. It's like, all right, dude, whatever. You're a joke. Like, get out of my face. Like, because at the end of the day, too, like, I don't know if this is your experience, but I've never had a negative fan experience in person. It's always positive. Always ask for a picture, and those probably the same dudes that are like, you only fight cans, like, can't wait till you get knocked out. Like, it's like, bro, like, you know, it's not real life. So, you know, I just try to use that for a little motivation, for a little fire and stuff. But at the same time, it's like kind of water off a duck's back. Yeah, no, I get that. How much film do you watch on your opponents or just on the sport in general? Film's huge for me. I'm a big film study guy. You know, I'm pretty much watching film every day, you know, whether it's a small amount, clips, things like that. I don't like to watch clips a lot, but I like to, you know, if I see something that is interesting to me, I like to study it, break it down, try to figure out why it's working. But longer film study, I do a ton of, and especially scouting my opponents. Typically I'll do it in kind of two or three stages, where I'll do it at the beginning of camp, work on some stuff, do it again at the middle of camp, work on some stuff, and then right at the end, just like keep it fresh in my mind. So I know that I'm sharp, I'm ready to go. And I think that's a very underutilized kind of part of a training, really training modality in MMA. You listen to anybody that competes in professional sports, in the NFL, the NBA, even the MLB, like, these dudes are studying a lot of film. They're watching tons of film. You know, talk to an NFL quarterback, talk to a point guard in the NBA. Every single interview they do, they're referencing film study, and these types of training modalities and things. I feel like MMA, it's such a, I'm gonna be a tough guy. I'm gonna come out here. Let me bang, bro. And it's like that's a given. Like, that's part of the sport. But let's come at it. To me, I want to come at it intelligently. I want to come at it from a place of professionalism, and I feel like it helps me a lot. You know, because you can only train so much, and you can only put so many hours in the day, to where before you're really grinding your body into dust. But I can study film for hours and hours and hours, and that's where I feel like I get a leg up on people. Yeah, I could see that being a big advantage of, you know, tendencies, because it seems like fighters have their same familiar things they like. Yeah, pattern, and they go back to it. Yeah, you know, they might try different things, but, you know, in the heat of the moment, or when the fire gets pretty hot, you kind of know what they're going to do. Oh, for sure. Right? Yeah. To me, it's, if I can force a reaction out of a guy, it's over. Yeah. You're done. Like, and you know, of course, the confidence in knowing that it's over is from reps and reps and reps and hours of drilling and you know, working these specific techniques and working positioning and understanding how to elicit that reaction out of a guy. So yeah, everybody has that, right? Like, no matter how good you are, whether you're it's your first fight or whether you're John Jones, like, you're gonna have a reaction in some way. And a big part of preparation and being well prepared for a fight is understanding that, knowing that, and not only understanding and knowing it, but putting in the drills, putting in the time throughout that camp to know what you're going to do in the fight. Like, you know, it's one thing to think it, but then you gotta back that up with time in training.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think that I feel like film would be a big one. What do you think film is more important for tendencies, wrestling or fighting? Did you watch film during wrestling too?
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
I've always been a big film guy. It started out, honestly, when I was a kid. I remember being 8, 9, 10 years old. If there was wrestling on, I was watching it. Whether it was on, you know, the NCAA championships, the Big Ten Network, Flow Wrestling, YouTube, whatever, like I was on it. I knew it. I would get magazines in the mail and I would read through every single ranking, every single article, know exactly what's happening where, who's going to match up, which kid was good. That way, you know, when I go to a tournament, my dad was a high school wrestling coach. So I would go to all these big tournaments as a kid, you know, and watch the high school guys compete, and I would know every single guy that was out there and competing. So film study's been a big thing for me since I was a kid. First, it was more so enjoying it and like watching as a fan, and then it became something that I was like, wow, this is like helping me a lot. So I still enjoy it, but I do it purposefully. And I would say, I don't know that one or the other is more important, but I mean, MMA is so much more high stakes.
Yeah,
it's so much more high stakes
You're
than
not going to
wrestling.
get knocked out in wrestling.
No, and it's just a whole different ball game when, you know, there's however many million people watching. There's, you know, money on the line, your career's on the line, your health is on the line, that type of thing, versus a wrestling match where it's a big deal if you win or lose, but, you know, you're not getting knocked out and embarrassed in front of millions of people. So, I mean, I would say like everything in MMA is heightened.
You know, your fights so far in the UFC have been pretty quick from what I know. So you mentioned if you get a reaction, it's over. I was wondering when you said that, like, I could see where it really would pay off in a longer fight. And I was wondering to myself, if you get that reaction, do you act on it then, or do you bank it and think that, okay, well, he did that this time, I'm not going to do it now, but now I know what he's going to do. So when he reacts, I'm doing this.
I think it's both. So in my last fight, good example. So we were Southpaw Orthodox matchup, and I came out right away, threw a punch, came back, like really feinted a punch and feinted a takedown to see how he reacted. Then we kind of circled back to the center. I dropped my hand down, and he was super nervous about the takedown, so he dropped his hand down. So immediately when that happened, I knew I'm coming over the top. I'm gonna do the same exact thing, come over the top of the right hook. And I did it, boom, and it landed. And that was just in the moment where I saw what he did. I knew there was gonna be an opening the exact next time, and I went for it. I wasn't trying to knock him out or anything. I was just, you know, saw that and kind of read him. And it worked out. I was able to then get the finish. But there's definitely a lot of stuff where there's other scenarios where, you know, you might be put in a position, you see how a guy reacts, and you're not going to be able to elicit that same reaction right away. So then you do have to keep that in the bank. And that's where the mental side of the sport is so important, where you're under pressure, you're getting tired. How good is your decision-making capability in those situations? And how well are you able to log those little notes where you see, okay, I fake a calf kick, and he goes to check it like this every time. All right, now I can fake a calf kick, come up with a 2-3, or take him down, or then teep him in the belly. Like what have I put into drilling in training that I'm going to be able to access in these moments? That's kind of my opinion on that. You know, so you really do both. You know, you can go right away if you know it's there, or, you know, maybe there's a situation where you want to save something, or, you know, things like that. Like kind of that's being able to discern what to do. That's like a very important part of fighting.
Yeah. So who do you see, like, you're 185, that's middleweight, right?
Yep.
Middleweight. So of the guys, say in the top 10, who is most susceptible to falling to you because of your skill, your wrestling heavy skill set? Who would you think is?
Yeah. To be honest, everybody.
Really?
Everybody, man. You know, like that's the thing is, there's the division I'm in right now is not very wrestling heavy. There's not really a lot of high level grapplers, of people who, you know, I feel like can threaten me or can really defend what I have. So, you know, I think all of those guys are right for the picking, and you know, we'll see how it goes. You know, whoever the UFC decides to match me up with, I think that I'm continuing to develop as a fighter overall. My base and my footwork and my skills are getting sharper and sharper every day in the other aspects. And then, you know, I'm continuing to improve in wrestling. So by the time I'm fighting those guys, I don't really see, of course there's tough guys, you know, there's a good chance some of those fights are going to be competitive, but I'm working right now and putting the time into where every fight I have is going to look like this dude's outclassed. It doesn't matter whether it's an unranked guy in his first UFC fight or whether I'm fighting for the belt. Like, that's my intention and my plan. I'm not going out there to bang it out and have a 50-50, you know, split decision with the guy. Like, I'm going out to dominate every single dude that I compete against. So, you know, I don't really look at anybody and like feel like, you know, oh, this dude's a tough matchup, or oh, this dude's a bad matchup. It's just, you know, for me, it's about developing, improving, getting better, and that's really what I'm focused on.
Yeah, I think that, you know, I think that fighters, when they know they got some wrestling prodigy, or somebody who's like, they know the reputation is, I think, and they're not wrestling whatever centric, I think they want to avoid that.
Yeah.
They don't like that. Because,
I'm good.
You know, because I've even seen, you know, there's black belts, and it's weird because, you know, I think Hosmot even said this. He was just a wrestler, but he would fight black belts and dominate them.
Yeah.
So it doesn't seem like that ever happens to wrestlers. There's not a bad matchup really for a wrestler.
No, you know, I
maybe
think
striking if they can't strike at all.
Yeah, if they can't strike at all, I would say a bad matchup for a wrestler would be somebody who is disciplined, who keeps a good base, who moves a lot. Like Adesanya did a good job of always continuing to move, like not never staying in one place to where the guy could read you and take you down. So, you know, he was a guy that I think did well in that regard. But man, you're gonna have to move for the entire fight.
Yeah.
Like if you stop, you say, yeah, you can. That's pretty tiring. Most people don't train that way.
Right.
So it's not like, okay, you don't train this way, all of a sudden in the fight, now you're gonna be able to do it. Right. And most people don't like to train even that way, and they don't like to train wrestling either. So, you know, it's hard to, like, one, they're not gonna make up for it, but two, even if they're trying to, like, they're not really putting that work in. It's not fun. It's way more fun to hit pads and spar and do those types of things. And that's what most people are doing, at least from what I see. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I always love, you know, styles make fights is what they say, but I don't know. It seems like wrestlers have a big advantage just from the seat of the fan here where I'm at. And I want to see you up against, I don't know. I want to see it.
Me
because
too.
I do know, like, I know Israel was a good example. Is wrestling kind of was a weakness. I think that showed itself against Jan.
Yeah.
But that's a bigger guy. But still, so he worked really hard to work on his wrestling. But still, it's never going to be like a plus on the plus side. No. It's just like, hopefully it's not a devastating negative.
Exactly. Yeah.
Hopefully it's just a push. At best they're making it where it's hopefully sort of even. It's never going to be an advantage where you're going to have an advantage in that category every time.
For sure. Yeah. And I mean, I want to put myself in those positions as much as possible. Like, if a guy has to wrestle with me for a round and a half, it's like, good luck, dude. One, you're going to be so tired, you're not going to be able to do anything. Two, like, I'm going to win those positions every time. Like, you're not beating me. You're just not going to. And so I hope that, I don't know. It's curious for me to think about what guys are doing to train for me and prep for me and get ready. Cause, you know, like I said, most guys, they don't want to train wrestling. They're not really working hard on it. And, you know, so let's say they get matched up with me for a fight and they got 8 or 10 weeks to prep. I don't know. What are they going to start sprawling? They're going to work on backing up, throwing an uppercut or a knee. It's like, okay, I don't know. That's something I think about and consider. But at the end of the day, like, there's zero chance they're going to make up really any ground in wrestling, right? Like,
Yeah.
they're not going to.
I mean, and you have kind of firsthand knowledge, not of yourself, but you did help Jorge Masvidal try to prepare for wrestling heavy Colby.
It's tough.
And I mean, how was he doing? Like when you guys would train, was it looking good?
Yeah.
What were you thinking?
He was getting better. He was improving, and he was making gains, but it's, it's so hard to make those gains when the other guy has 20 years under his belt and you've been doing it for a few years and intermittently. And it's just such a thing that if you do it as a kid, you get this natural feel, how to move your body, this and that. And also
it's kind of leverage against the guy you're
with. And even if you know what to do and you do a good job in a fight, you got to do that over and over and over again. Like in a guy like Colby, I would say against a guy like Colby, it's more important to be in good shape than it is to be good at wrestling, because you can defend him once, but if it takes a good % of your energy to do that one correct defense, what are you going to do the next time?
Yeah.
You're going to get worn down. And so it's more important to just be in like amazing condition than it is to have good technique. Cause you can kind of figure some stuff out. Let's say you're in great shape and you get taken down. You're not worried about how much energy it takes to pop back up and get away. Like you're just going to do it. But if you're concerned, frick, all right, I got taken down. Now, how much energy am I using? Oh, I don't want to be tired, because it's the worst thing in the world to be in a fight is tired. It's better to be way outmatched in technique and have that guy be tired and you be fresh than it is to have much, much better technique, but you're dead.
But you're fatigued.
So to me, like a lot of that had to do with cardio more so than even wrestling technique, because you got to be able to, you can learn the right technique, but if you can't do it when you're tired, it doesn't matter.
I do think that, that you said 20 years of wrestling, when you get used to feeling another man and how they're, where their body is, where that leverage works, what you can do to manipulate it, that comes, over years.
Yeah.
And just knowing how to take advantage and get your opponent to do what you want him to do. Yeah.
Yeah. Wrestling is the ultimate cheat code, really, because there's, to me, the biggest, I've already mentioned like cardio and conditioning as, the biggest part of MMA, but after that, it's really just control. If you can control your guy, if like anybody if I get my hands on him, I'm gonna be able to move around, control him, put him where I want to. Nobody's gonna be doing that to me when we're locked up. Of course, you change the range, you get into kickboxing range or you get into boxing range, and like things are different, but just being able to control your opponent, being able to threaten the wrestling, being able to take a guy down and put yourself in good position. It almost doesn't, a lot of people highlight the strikes. They highlight a flying knee or a straight two or, head kick or a combination. Like this stuff is a formality. It's an afterthought. Like that stuff is the easiest thing to figure out how to do. What's hard is to figure out how to control and manipulate your opponent, put them in a position where now you're in an advantage. And then you do that over again, over again, over again. And now you're giving yourself opportunities to land strikes, to get takedowns, to get submissions, to finish the fight. But that's where it starts, is that positioning, that control. And that's really what wrestling is all about. Because at the end of the day, like let's say you look at a wrestling match, if you get an angle on somebody and now I can shoot and take them down, that's the same thing as me getting an angle on somebody and punch them or kick them. It's the same thing. Or let's say I get to the leg, I get them on the ground. They're going to try to get up. I pull them down to their hip. Like I'm just doing the positioning aspect of it without the landing the strikes or the doing submission. So it's like,
but the end result's the same.
You're really doing 80% of it just without the finish, right? So that's why I think wrestling, that's another thing wrestling gives that's a huge advantage.
Were you in the corner for Jorge during that fight?
So I was like kind of not. He didn't have me in his corner. He had me kind of like just cage side or whatever. Yeah,
I just wondered what was a thought like. Okay, we're gonna have to knock this guy out because.
Oh, I was with him in the backstage, like warming up and stuff. So the thought was, it was really like, I think he was more focused on the cardio than anything else. He was more focused on like, don't get tired. I think in the back of his head, he kind of knew he needed to knock him out, but I mean, he got tired in like 2 minutes. So
I know it went quick. It went quick. And that must be demoralizing.
Yeah.
I mean, you haven't been there.
Not in a fight. No, not really in a wrestling match. But training, practice, you feel that. Yeah.
Okay.
A lot. So it's the worst, man. It sucks.
Yeah. As we all know, I've been putting all my guests through a pretty good cardio session on Mount Pisgah. Go Ruck is a welcome new addition to the podcast and Lift Run Shoot series. I love the 80-pound sandbags, but I'm not sure how my guests feel about it. But what do they say? Pain is weakness leaving the body. All the people at Go Ruck are beasts, and I'm thrilled to partner with them. We use the rucks and sandbags on almost every episode, and now you can take your training to the next level as they are offering listeners 10% off when you use code CAM, C-A-M, at goruck.com. See you guys on the mountain. You better not forget that weight. Hey guys, you want to be as smart as famed neuroscientist Andrew Huberman, PhD at Stanford? Well, sadly, that's probably not going to happen. But I did find something that can help, and that's HVMN Ketone IQ. I actually downed one right before reading this, so if I sound decent, it's probably why. Because I'm not sure if you guys realize how much brain power podcasting takes, but whatever I can take that will at least make me sound smarter, I'm in. Ketone IQ is a clean energy boost without sugar or caffeine. Ketone IQ increases your blood ketones. I'm not on a keto diet, but by taking Ketone IQ, I can achieve the desired focus and energy for explosive workouts that ketones typically provide to those in ketosis. You can find Ketone IQ at your local Sprouts or online at hvmn.com. Use code CAM, C-A-M, for 20% off your first order. You know, training or practice is not what the whole world watching against this guy. You hate, he hates you.
There's a lot, yeah.
I mean, I couldn't imagine. I wanted Colby, obviously, but I felt bad because it was like he looked, Jorge looked, I liked Jorge for years.
Yeah.
For years, he was like, we watched the backyard stuff with him. Loved. He was such a dog.
I know.
And so, of course, I wanted Colby's from where I live, same town. But I saw Jorge over there, like leaning against a fence at the end, just couldn't even hardly stand up. And I'm like, God dang, that sucks. Because he's a gangster.
Yeah, he's a great guy too. Like,
is he?
Really, really nice dude. Love training with him. And, he's taught me a good amount and stuff. So, I was grateful to kind of have that experience and be there with him. It helped me a ton just knowing what it's like to be in a UFC pay-per-view main event and go through this process. Like I was able to kind of go through that with him before I was ever even in the UFC. So super valuable for me. And yeah, it's tough, but that's the game. That's the life we chose. And there's only one winner. And it is what it is. But don't get tired in a fight.
Yeah, I know. I'll note that for whenever I enter the octagon.
Whenever you make your debut.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm so lucky to be, I'm been a big fan. I mean, I watched like back when Ken Shamrock and Hoist Gracie, when there was no weight limits, and it was like 1996 or whenever it was, we used to get it over my buddy's pay-per-view.
Oh, yeah.
And plus then before that, I used to watch, I think they called it, was it Toughman Competition? Do you ever remember that?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And
they still do those sometimes.
Phil Baroni.
Phil Baroni was teammates in wrestling with one of my college coaches.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, he was shredded.
Yeah.
And like a beast in this Toughman competition. Yeah. I used to love that stuff.
It's like bare knuckle throw down.
Yeah, it was crazy. But so I've been like a combat sports fan, just a fan for decades. So to be friends with Joe and be able to be right there, I mean, it's a dream come true. And also to have, I was telling you today, I've never had a champion in the gym. I've had Colby won the interim. He beat Dos Anjos.
Right.
And Chandler has fought, and it was like this close
right there
to beating Oliveira. I thought he had one more punch. It would have fit. Oliveira's on the ground, like doing like this.
So close.
Then he would have been champion. And then, Chad Mendez, he had the great fight, 5-round war with Aldo down in Brazil.
Right.
And so never had an official champion. So maybe it's you. But
I think it will be for sure. I mean, if we'll see how this fight goes with Colby and Leon, but if he doesn't get her done, I'll get her done.
Who have you learned the most from? Either personally or from afar, who have you tried to model yourself after, if anybody?
I wouldn't say there's a person I've tried to model myself after, but as far as like people I consider mentors, people that I look to for advice, within MMA specifically, to my coaches, Barry Robinson, who he's a boxing coach and striking coach. I mean, he started off in boxing, but now he's really moved into anything striking related, and he lives in Thailand. But I pretty much communicate with him on the daily on social media or through text. We'll do FaceTime film studies and stuff like that, and he's helped me so much just understand the game of MMA and the really how to be a proficient striker. Like a lot of stuff that I'm saying now about positioning and learning how to move, learning how to control, like this type of stuff comes from him. And so he's made a huge impact on me. And then the other coach I work with heavily is Mike Brown. And Mike, he was WEC world champion, really obviously tough fighter, and now like head coach at American Top Team down in Coconut Creek, Florida. And he's really taught me a lot of like the mental game of MMA of, pick your spots, stay in a good position, stay safe, and learning how to blend together the styles that I'm good at and kind of tailor and figure out what my game is in MMA. So learning how to punch into takedowns, learning how to go takedowns into jiu-jitsu, learning how to threaten jiu-jitsu and ground and pound. These types of things I'm learning from Mike. And so I'm really lucky. I've always had really good coaches. I think it's just something that I've been blessed with. My dad coached me in wrestling from 5 to 18 when I got in college, and he was an amazing coach. Coached, I don't even know how many individual state champions and state championship teams, and so it really started with him. And then obviously I had great coaches at Penn State for wrestling, and so that's always been a relationship that's been really important to me, to find really good coaches, people that I trust, people that I believe that I can, that I know are going to give me, not just tell me what I want to hear, but give me the right information and maybe get on me a little bit when I need to hear that. So, those guys for me, when I transitioned into MMA, it was like priority for me to find good guys that I trust. And those are two guys that definitely had the biggest impact on me in my career thus far.
How was your dad as a coach? Was he pretty tough on you?
You can say that. Yeah. He was tough on me. I think that a lot of kids whose dads are coaches, their dads are tough on them, and maybe they don't really want it. Like they're not 100% in on whatever they're doing. And so that puts a strain on the relationship. But I'm super close with my dad. Like my dad's one of my best friends. So I think that it was good because he coached me basically as hard as I wanted to be coached. There were times when it was like a little much. Yeah. But I think that helped me. And now I look back at all of that stuff and I'm so grateful for it. Like I remember there was countless nights where I would basically do the youth wrestling practice, I would start off coming at 3 or 4 p.m., do the high school wrestling practice because they would go straight after school, do that for 2 hours. I'll take an hour break, get some dinner or whatever, and then do the youth wrestling practice. And my dad would coach the youth wrestling too. And what people do nowadays, they do these clubs, right? Where all the youth from the area come in and they pay whatever, $100 a month to do this. Like my dad was doing that for free. So he was getting all the best kids in the area and just trying to build the program of the high school and stuff like that. Cause he knew all these kids are coming up. They're going to go to school here. They're going to get good. So then I would do, hour and a half or so of youth practice. And then everybody would leave and it'd be me and my dad. And we would do, squat jumps across the mat and push-ups and pull-ups. And he'd put these bands on my waist and make me take shots. And it was like extra, 45 minutes, hour, just us. And, nobody was doing that, right? Like that's what I remember. And it was something where it was like, he was making me do it, but I wanted to do it. And I could see the correlation. Like I put this work in, I grind it out and do what people aren't willing to do. I'm going to get results that people aren't going to get. And so now, obviously my dad, he's not coaching anymore, but he's a guy I really look up to. And we more so have like a friendship type relationship where, I know he's like my number one fan, number one supporter, and we can talk about pretty much anything and everything. So yeah, it's really positive for me, at least. That's been my experience. So really grateful that he cared about me so much and put that much time into me.
Yeah, what would he say on the nights you didn't want to do all that? Was there times? I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, it would just be basically like, you want to quit? You can quit. Go ahead. Is that he would just put it on me, right? It'd be like, if that's what you want, we can go home right now. Let's do it. Like, he's like, I'm not gonna make you do it. And then it was always me. I would be like crying or whatever. I'd be like, no, I don't want to leave. Like, come on, let's go. Do it again. Like, don't make me go home. So it was, he was a good motivator.
Reverse psychology.
He was great at it. And I saw him, just have such a big impact on so many kids. And obviously, I think for the most was me. We spent the most time with me, but on so many kids like that, where he would literally coach kids that had no business winning into winning, like all the time. He would have kids that would start wrestling in high school and end up being state champions, like, which that doesn't happen just because he would teach good technique and things like that, but just mainly the motivation was that was his probably the best attribute as a coach.
Yeah, but it's kind of not really fair that you got to have that good of coaching as a kid. It's like, that must be nice. See that sign? Yeah,
no, seriously.
So it's not fair.
It's not. No, it's not. That's how I feel too. I'm like, all right, man. Like, I think that I'm so grateful for it. I appreciate it. But I recognize, like, not everybody got this.
Yeah.
Like I was in such a fortunate position and such a fortunate place. Like, there's no way I would be able to be where I'm at by myself. Like, I would have, who knows what I'd be doing. But all these people poured into me, and it is nice. Yeah. I'm great. I recognize it. I'm grateful for it. But I think that for me now, I just always look back on that with gratitude. And I know I didn't do it by myself. So I feel like I'm okay with it because I know there was a lot of effort from a lot of people that went into getting me to this point.
Well, Joe and I were talking. I like coaches. You talk about your dad reminded me of this, but we talked about, I think it's John Danaher. Is that who? Is that Gordon Ryan's coach?
Yep.
Just being so obsessive and smart, also, and like that's his whole life is coaching. And then I know, was it Caleb Sanderson? Is that who? Cael Sanderson at Penn State. Mm-hmm. Is he kind of that same? Because he seems like a larger than life type figure too.
So they have very different styles, I would say, of coaching. Real quick, I have a funny Danaher story. So I actually had a grappling match with Gordon.
I remember that.
So I did I'd never done any real jiu-jitsu in my life, like as far as like competing or anything like that. And so he had a couple opponents drop out, and I just messaged him on Instagram. I was like, yo, if you need an opponent, I got you. Like, let's do it. Yeah. And he's like, all right. So set it up and all that. And so in my mind, I'm thinking going in, I'm like planning on winning, but I know like what I'm going up against. And so there's so many unknowns. It's just like, I don't really know what's going to happen. I'm just planning on winning. Mm-hmm. And I don't even know what questions to ask or anything like that. Right. I did a couple like real actual jiu-jitsu practices the week before, where I had people teaching me stuff, teaching me how to defend, a guillotine, how to not get my back taken, these type of things. And so we get there, and they do a weigh-in, and I'm like, I was so dumb. I was like, I didn't even ask about what weight we're going. So I come in, I weigh like 201 or 202. He's like 230. Yeah. I'm like, whatever, I don't care, I'm here. Yeah. And we did it at this sports bar, and then the refs and the promoter that are putting it on, they like bring us into the back of the sports bar at this table, and I'm sitting there, and I got one of my wrestling coaches with me. It's just like us, we've never done it. We're just like, all right, let's freaking go. Yeah. Whatever. And Danaher quizzed these refs and quizzed the promoter for like an hour about all the rules, because jiu-jitsu, it's always different rules for everything. And so he's quizzing them, asking them all these questions and doing this and that, and I'm like, dude, you want to relax? Like, I've never done jiu-jitsu in my life. Yeah. Like, you freaking, what the hell's going on here? But he was covering every base. Like, he was like not going in unprepared, or not going in thinking, oh, he was going to whip me. He was like making sure that they had every single escape route, advantage, this and that. And I was just like, that's what I don't really regret losing that. I regret not being as well prepared as them. So that's taught me coming into MMA. Mm-hmm. Like, that's what the type of preparation I need to do. That's professional. Yeah. And so I'm obviously wish I would have won, but I'm grateful for that experience, because I learned a lot from kind of the way they handled things. And because I'm just like down. I'm just like, yo, you want to do it? Let's go. Yeah, like, that's my personality. But I just appreciate the way they handled it. It taught me a lot. Yeah. But Coach Cael is much different. Coach Cael, his coaching style is he isn't like analytical like that, like Danaher. He has he's more like talking about principles of like how we handle ourselves, you know, that type of things. Like some things we always talk about. We always talk about, one, you got to know what you want. So like that's straight from him about, you know, if you're not clear on what you want, you're just going to end up with whatever you end up with. You know? If you don't have a goal, if you don't have something clear in your mind, you're not visualizing, you know, you're going to get what you're going to get. And to know from there, like, it's on you to get it. It's not on anybody else. It's your job to put the time in, put the work in, to go on competition day and compete and win. Like, it's not on the coaches, it's not on your parents, it's on you. So like that's something that's, you know, that he preaches. And the last thing that he talks about that's been a huge impact on me, definitely the biggest impact and really like the foundation of everything that I do is gratitude and appreciating, you know, just getting better at being grateful for as much as you possibly can. Like if you have a abundance mindset and you can appreciate whatever it is. Like my one teammate gives the best example, and it's that he's grateful he has dry socks. And it's, you know, if you can have that attitude, that's going to permeate through the rest of your life. It's going to take away that victim mentality and that woe is me, all this and that. It's like you're always going to get the best results. You're going to get better results the more grateful you are, in my opinion. Like the more you can appreciate what you have and not complain about what you don't, like you're going to do better with it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it does put you in a different state of mind.
For sure.
And then you're looking at why you're grateful and the positives, instead of, a lot of people get tricked into focusing on what they don't have, what this guy has, how they got screwed out of this. Right. And then, when your focus is there, that's where you're going.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that is a great lesson.
Yeah.
I just know, I think was he like undefeated?
Yeah. So he's the only collegiate wrestler to go undefeated, win 4 national titles ever. So he was 159-0. He was like the guy I looked up to as a kid, Olympic gold medalist, one of the winningest coaches in college wrestling history. So he's pretty much done everything. And he's a guy I look at, like definitely a big mentor of mine, a guy that I look up to. And I think, you know, you can talk about his skills, you can talk about his coaching ability, his motivation, the principles that he teaches all of us, but he's just like a really good person, I think. And, you know, it's not like he's a perfect person where every single thing you do is always going to make the right decision, but like he's a guy I just trust his intentions, and I trust like if he's giving me advice, or if, you know, he sees something, he's a guy that like I just respect a whole lot. And I think you know, he brings that energy into a room. Like whenever he's in a room, people are like, he just has that about him. This type of guy, like whatever he did, whether he was a wrestler or a chess player or was in business, like he would be successful. You just know it because that's the type of person he is.
I mean, you know, I've known guys not to that level of perfection like he had, you know, his career, but there's people who you don't want to let down.
Oh yeah.
You know, I mean, it's not even like you're doing you just don't want to let them down. They believe in you, and the last thing you want to do is fail them.
For sure.
I mean, did you ever felt like you let them down?
I never felt like I let him down. You know, because he always made it clear that his priority was effort. It was like, that's something else he talks about as a team. He's like, we're not worried about winning and losing. We're worried about effort. Like, go have fun and give 100%. And if you do that, then we're good. You know, and after that, the results will take care of themselves. So I never felt like I disappointed him. More so, there were times where I disappointed myself because I wanted something so bad and when I didn't get it, it was really devastating. But there was one time where kind of the opposite happened, and I was in a little bit, I wouldn't say a funk, but going into the national finals my junior year, I basically got put in a situation where I was wrestling a kid from Ohio State. Penn State and Ohio State were neck and neck in the team championship, the team race. And whoever won between me and this kid, their team would win as well. So, and he had beat me in the national finals 2 years earlier when I was a freshman. He was a freshman as well. So we were like big time rivals, had some bad blood and stuff. Not really like actual bad blood, but just like a big rivalry in college wrestling. And I remember I was sitting there and I was freaking nervous. I was like, dang, like this is huge.
A lot riding on this.
All this is riding on this. And he comes up to me and he's like, hey, I just want to let you know, if I had to pick any guy to go out here and wrestle this match right now, I pick you. And I was like, well, let's get it then. That's what I'm talking about. And he just brought me out of that. My mentality completely changed.
Okay.
And then I went out and it was a cool match. I ended up pinning him in the first period in like a super epic reversal. He like took me down and I kicked him through and reversed him right to his back and pinned him. And the crowd, it was in Cleveland, Ohio too. So all Ohio State fans and all the Penn State fans went nuts. And it was a really cool moment. But I just remember that specifically. That was probably the time where I felt the most pressure for, representing not only myself and my team, but like a whole university and him, and he was in a year where it was like his contract was coming up at the end of the year as a coach, which he had already won
He's
5
under pressure.
Yeah. He had won like 5 national titles at that point. So it wasn't like he was not in threat of losing his job or anything, but like, it looks a lot better if we win.
Yeah, definitely.
So it was a big deal in that regard of like, I definitely didn't want to disappoint him then.
Yeah, no, that just him believing in you in that moment, I can understand how that would alleviate the pressure.
It was big for me, like mentally, because he's a guy, like I said, when I was 6, 7 years old, he was the guy. Like that's who I was watching. I had a little VHS tape. I remember I had one of those old TVs that had the VHS in the bottom of the TV. And it was a recording of the NCAA finals his senior year. And I would play it like all the time at night and I would watch. And I even got like headgear that were the same as his and stuff. Like he was the guy to me.
Where did he go to college?
He went to Iowa State.
Okay.
Yeah. So I thought I wanted to go to Iowa State and he was coaching at Iowa State, but then he coached there for a few years and then went to Penn State after. So I was like, that's where I want to be.
I see. Yeah. No, that's amazing. It sounds good to say, okay, just go out there, give your best effort, have fun, but winning, it's hard, it's easy to say all that.
Yeah.
But there's nothing like winning. I mean, when you're obsessed with winning and winning I know you were obsessed with winning a national title. I did my best and had fun. That's probably not enough, is it?
So I think that sometimes you're not going to make that an excuse. It's not like, okay, well, I did my best and had fun, so all good. It's like, that's your life. Like, I'm going to do my best every single day with every single second I have. I'm never wasting a workout. I'm going to make sure I'm disciplined in my nutrition and my sleep and my
Controlling
recovery.
all you can.
Yeah. So I think it more has to do with that. It doesn't have to do with, I go out there and whatever happens, happens. And it's all good regardless. It's like, I'm coming out here to freaking win. And if you're in my way, I'm going to smash you. Like, I'm going to roll you over, bro. Like, I don't care who you are. Like you have like, you're just a blank face. Like, it doesn't even matter. So I have that type of mentality when competing where like, I don't even see the guy I'm competing against. It's not even a person. Like, it's just a target.
Right.
And so that's like the mentality I take in competition, but I know to get the best results that it's effort based. It's not, oh man, well, I hope I win if the ref makes the right call, or if this guy slips on a banana peel, or if maybe I just feel really good today. It's like, dude, I'm going out here 100% to destroy whatever's in my way, and that's kind of more so what I mean. And for me, that's fun. Yeah. And I look at it like this: there's been times that I've gone and competed where I've won and I haven't been happy with my performance, where I felt like, man, I didn't compete the way I wanted to. And that's really what I'm talking about is like, there sometimes, maybe you have a little fear in your mind. You want to get a lead and hold on, or, you didn't prepare as well as you should have, things like that. That's really what I mean by effort, by basing my I guess overall basing the success of the result on that versus like winning and losing.
Right.
Like I would rather, I hate to say this, but I would honestly rather go out in like a UFC title fight and just freaking give it my all and like just be in an absolute battle war and do everything right, everything I need to do. Know I was 100% prepared and lose, then go out there and kind of like coast through and maybe not compete well and win and just like not be myself. Really, it's more about being yourself. Like if you can be yourself, then you're good. And to me, like that's being competitive. That's doing everything I possibly can to win in my preparation and on that day. And, you know, good things are going to happen. I just believe that.
Do you, so you know, in that example there, you said, you know, you just want to be yourself. Do you think that like the best fighters can, you know, every fighter wants to fight their best, their game plan, follow their game plan. But it seems like the most dominant champions, they dictate how the fight's going to go. Right. So it's like, if you train like you want, your skill set's where you want, your mindset's where you want, and then you control the fight. It's I don't know. That seems like a big part of it.
For sure.
Because you see people maybe that are tentative, they're kind of reacting, they're worried about this or that. But the guys, like, I feel like John Jones, when he fights, or Khabib, when he fought, the fight was going to happen where they wanted it to happen.
Yeah.
I know it's easier said than done, but that's always the goal, right?
For sure. And I think that a big part of kind of to kind of sum up what you just said, the way that in one word, I have a really, I know this really awesome guy, his name's Christopher Maher, and he helps me a lot with just the psychological side of life and competing, and also like keeping my body healthy and you know, doing some different exercise modalities and things. But the word that he always uses and that he taught me is alignment. Everything's aligned, right? That's in training, that's in recovery, that's in family, that's in your faith and your spirit and the people around you, relationships, like all that stuff is aligned. And when I look at my goals of being the pound for pound #1 fighter in the world, being UFC champion, defending my belt 10 times, everything I do and all of that kind of comes into like my life, like I want it to be aligned with that. And that's what I'm chasing. That's what I'm focused on right now. So I think that when you see people go out there and compete and they look like they can't lose, it doesn't matter how good the other person is. It's because they're more aligned maybe than that person. And maybe that's going to look differently from everybody. Like everybody knows John Jones, it's a wild dude. Like that dude's crazy, but you know, he would figure out a way when it came fight night. His mind, he could align everything. Everything was aligned. Yeah. It didn't matter what had happened the week before. Normally it's a lifestyle thing. Exactly. Like for me, that's what I just choose to make it my lifestyle. And that's why I feel confident every time I go out there. Like, I'm going to kill this guy. Like it doesn't matter like what you got planned for me, bro. Like I'm aligned, and everything here is, you know, on purpose and intentional. Well, I think a good example of that too, just to, you know, harken on another UFC legend, is Conor. When he came up, it was aligned with, he was going to be champion. Yep. I mean, he was living in his mom's house, I think, in a spare bedroom, and still saying that he was going to be champion, and he's going to drive cars, and he was going to buy whoever this or that, and he was going to be, you know, he was aligned with that goal. And then once he got it, you know, and you know, I'm a huge Conor fan, of course. I'd just love to see him fight. But once he got it, that alignment, you know, then there's other interests, business interests, and building an empire, and that's awesome. Right. That's awesome. But it kind of changes that alignment on his focus. Definitely. You know, to your point. Oh yeah, I've thought about this before too. There's a really famous kind of quote from him where I think somebody asked him like where he sees himself in 5 years or 10 years, and I don't want to butcher it, but he says something along the lines of, "I see myself, you know, being world famous in the UFC, double champion, have more money than I know what to do with." And it was like, that's exactly what you did. But what's next? Yeah. Right. So, you know, to me, that's the thing where it's like, my goal is to be the UFC champion, pound for pound, #1 fighter in the world. When I get that, which I will, all right, now you got to reassess. Yeah. What's my next goal? Is my next goal continuing in fighting? Is it to, you know, am I going to have to reset and now want to become the greatest of all time? Or do I like, what do I want? Or do I want to move on to another area, to another arena? Do I want to chase even more elk, like professional bow hunter? Exactly. Yeah. So, right. Like, I don't know. I think that's just an important thing for everybody to ask themselves. It's like, what do you want? Right. Like, what are you chasing? You know, that documentary of Conor, that was so inspiring because it showed that whole journey, and it freaking happened.
It's crazy.
I like seeing stuff like that.
Oh, it was, I don't know. I've watched that documentary because I was at the fight where he beat Diaz a second time, and
Wow.
he came through in the back and he's on crutches because he was doing leg kicks. That was the biggest thing is Nate has his leg out there a lot. And so, but Connor's leg got beat up, from landing all those leg kicks, and he was coming by on crutches, and he was saying, doubt me now, because he had lost obviously the time before and was just in another war. But it's just like, so I watched that because he comes walking right by where we were in the back, and I didn't watch just for that. I watched because I love the story, but it gave an extra incentive for me to care about that film. But so powerful. Yeah. Because when he had nothing and no reason to believe any of that would happen, he was saying it.
For sure. Yeah, I think that's such a cool thing that, in this life, in this world, it doesn't matter really where you start. I believe, like, if you set your mind to something, if somebody really makes a decision like, this is what I want, I think the universe conspires to like make it happen, because there's other moving parts that are factored into that, right? Like, maybe imagine if Conor never got a shot in the UFC, right? Like he just kept winning in Cage Warriors, or maybe he lost another fight there and, just never got a shot or got, off track. There's a lot of different things that could have happened, but he was so clear on it. He had so much clarity that that's what happened. And you hear stories like that all the time where, somebody comes from nothing, and whatever their goal was, whether it's in athletics and business and whatever, and like they just make it happen. Those are my favorite type of stories.
Me too. Just because every day, and I'm assuming with you, I don't know what your mindset is every day, but I can speak for me. So my goal was to this bow hunt and bow hunt giant bulls is what and I would think about it every single day. And so what was I doing that day to get me to the goal of hunting giant bulls in the most famous elk hunting mountains in the world? And it's like, if that is your focus every single day and it never wavers, there is no limit.
For sure. Yeah, I feel the exact same way. Yeah, like I think that...
so every day you're focused on your goal of pound for pound number one. Every day you're working towards that.
For sure. Yeah, that singularity. And I think for me at least, as I've gotten older, I've learned that looks different every day. Like someday it might be, bro, we're going to take morning workout, afternoon workout. We're going to freaking get after it. You're going to kill yourself and you're probably going to feel pretty terrible, but this is what it takes. And then the next day it might be, hey, listen, hop in that cold tub, get in that sauna, go get a massage, go to the chiro, be disciplined, take care of yourself. Might be, okay, it's 10 p.m. You got to go to bed. We're keeping our nutrition right. There's so much stuff that goes into it. And I think that as I get older and more mature and just see more, I'm always adding to that of what that looks like. What I know is helping me, what I know is helping me push me forward, and what I think is hurting me. And I'm kind of like discarding that. Right. And, I just think most people probably aren't willing to do that. They're not willing to be consistent like that. But I'm fortunate that I've had great examples of people that have achieved great things and gone about it a certain way. And that everybody that I'm around has very similar mentality. Like I still live near Penn State. I'm around all the wrestlers. I'm around, the guys that are fighting and competing with me. They have that mentality, and everybody's kind of on that narrow path, which that's the type of people I want to surround myself with, because that's the type of lifestyle I want to live. And so, at the end of the day, it's like on me to make decisions for myself, but it does make it nice knowing other people are kind of on that same path with you.
Yeah. I thinking about that too, and I don't know him personally, but it seems like Khabib every day lived that life, and he would say himself, he didn't care about the money. He got a lot of money, obviously, but he, would go back home to his mom and dad before his dad died, but go back home and was very just dedicated to his faith. I didn't understand the faith at first or his dedication to it. Now I've watched more and learned a little more, and it's like he seems very dedicated to that, but it seems like he never wavered when his path was to be the number one pound for pound fighter, never wavered.
For sure.
Never was distracted.
For sure.
Never went out and partied.
Right.
Never, took time off, or maybe he took time off, but didn't seem like it.
Right. Yeah. That's definitely a guy that I look at, and it's hard when you're from a completely different side of the world and completely different culture and really like competitive, right? Like I'm here, I'm representing America. I'm representing USA Wrestling and, my family and my people. Like I want to win for myself, but I want to win for them too. Mm-hmm. And then I see somebody coming over, from Russia and, and essentially doing what I want to do. And at first I feel like I was like, I never really actively root against anybody, but I cheer for the Americans. Mm-hmm. And so, there was times where I was like, kind of wanted him to lose, but the more that I listened to him in interviews and got to know him, I'm like, wow, this dude's like very similar to myself, like, different culture, different religions, but I respect everything that he's doing and everything that he has done because I can draw so many parallels to the way that I want to live my life. Mm-hmm. And I feel like, somebody like that is a great, regardless of where they're from or, what religion, like he's a good role model, like just based off of what I've heard him say and the type of person he is and things like that nature. Like you have to respect it, regardless of whether you're competitors or not. And I think there's a ton to learn from, and like I said, just a lot of respect that way. And that's why I want to compete against the Dagestani guys. I've said this a lot in public, but those are the guys that I look at as the biggest threat. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to dodge them. I don't want to slink around and then, fight this guy, fight that guy, and then like find the path of least resistance to the belt. Like I want to beat the best guys. So if these guys are the best guys, coming for you. Yeah. And it's not like a negative thing. Like I don't really wish ill on them. Like I want to beat you. Yeah,
I get that. As you said, the more you learn about him and that lifestyle, the more you respect it. I listen to a lot of podcasts about fighting. Like I said, I'm a fan, but I listened to Bilal Muhammad talk about training over there. Mm. And I think he trained there for 5 weeks or something. And it was like the hardest thing he's ever done. And then I was thinking, man, so you're a professional fighter and that 5 weeks was the hardest you've ever done. And they've been doing that for years.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like what we talked about with your wrestling experience. How could you ever make that up? Khabib had been doing that for 20 years probably.
Yeah.
So that was huge. And then also I heard, I can't remember where I heard it, but Khabib as a coach or a trainer, he would, if the guys came in and looked tired or maybe I can't remember what it was, but he wouldn't let them spar.
Right.
Or he'd take their phone away.
Yeah.
Because
they're sleeping. They must have not going to sleep.
Yeah. They must have been up too late on their phone. So he wouldn't let them spar if they didn't get a good night's rest, or if or would take their phone away, and then they'd spar only when they were well rested. I mean, that is like, because when I think of, Russians or Dagestanis, I was thinking about, tough, no excuses. But to me, that was like another level of understanding the game or the business or just what you guys do, to know that it doesn't pay off to push your body or your brain or your mind that way. It's all about timing. It's about being in tune.
Definitely. Yeah. There's absolutely a right way to train and an incorrect way to train. It's not all just go every time. Sometimes the best thing for you is rest and recovery. And as a guy who, is tough, and that's just like the mentality of most guys, like, don't be a wuss, this and that. Like you got, and then other people will say that, but there, in my opinion, if you look at our bodies, if you look at physiology and science and research, there's a certain way to go about it that's correct, and that's going to be even harder to do than just to be tough all the time. Mm-hmm. And of course, we're going to be tough all the time. Like that's a prerequisite. It's a prerequisite. Like you're not going to be. Yeah, you're not going to be okay. You're not going to be in that position if you're not tough. But being tough looks different depending on the situation. Like for example, for me with my training camps, the last few weeks I'm tapering down, and that's when I want to be doing the most.
And that's tough in its own way.
It's so tough because I leave practice and I'm like, well, sometimes I'm like, okay, did I do what I need to be doing? Sometimes I'm like, dang, I want to do more, but I know this is part of the plan. And this is, and it's not, I'm not doing this randomly. I'm doing this based on research, based on tons of evidence and tons of people that have come before me and done what I want to do. So
who came up with this for you?
So I work with Sam Calavita in the training lab, and I've been working with him since I was in college. In addition to that,
is that did TJ use him?
Yeah. So there's a bunch of fighters and wrestlers that
Aaron,
use Coach
Pico,
Cael.
I think.
Pico.
Yeah.
So Coach Cael is like literally a full blown genius. Like he's so smart, so in the know and on the cutting edge of anything to do with physiology and training. Like I trust him wholeheartedly with anything, and not just because of my results, but because of I don't even know how many Olympic gold medalists, MMA champions that he's worked with, and who all those guys just take it to another level as far as the commitment outside of training, outside of the cage, right? Like that type of stuff is why I trust him. And in addition to that, like Penn State Wrestling has worked with him for over a decade. He's been good friends with one of our coaches for probably 25 years. So there's a lot of kind of that goes into like me making that decision and knowing I'm getting the correct information. It's not just, okay, I started working with this dude and I think it's going to be good. Like I'm not guessing. I know he's not guessing, and I've worked with him for a long time. So I know how I feel. And a lot of times it's harder to do less.
Right.
But I know like I'm here to perform on Saturday night at UFC, whatever number, like that's the goal. Like, so I'm not going to let my little pride of feeling like I need to do more in training, like get in the way of that. Like it's a battle, but
yeah, I understand. There's a science to it.
There is. And I just trust that. And I feel like, I've had enough results for me personally that I know it's the right thing. So that makes it easier.
Yeah, that's interesting. I love that part of it. It's, you guys are put in the biggest spotlight and expected to perform flawlessly. And it's like with so much at stake. I have so much respect for all the fighters, and of course I have opinions. I love weighing in on stuff, but I don't know shit. I love your mindset. I mean, in how you look at it. That to me is like, the winning mindset. I don't know. You need both. You need the ability to win, and then also you need that mindset.
Yeah,
and you got it both.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah. So we'll switch gears to hunting. What drew you to? Is it bow hunting or just hunting in general? What do you love?
Bow hunting. Yeah, bow hunting is what I love. I mean, I do some like upland bird hunting and stuff like that, but it's really just kind of filler. If you know what I'm saying. Like archery though is like number one for me. Bow hunting, being out there in the mountains, knowing I got to be right up close to this animal. That's like what it is for me. But really, this was maybe 3-ish years ago. I was thinking about, I graduated from college and stuff, and I was kind of moving into like, I guess, real life, figuring out what I wanted to do. And, I have stuff going on with my career in fighting, stuff going on in business, but I wanted something else that was like a passion for me. It's something that I was really excited to do. That kind of aligned and matched up with the rest of my life, and something I could pursue and want to improve on and get better at. And, so I golfed for a little bit, and I was like, this is all right. Like, I don't know if I can.
That's
really...
for old rich guys.
Yeah. I was like, I don't know if this is for me. And then I saw you on Instagram, and I had some, hunters in my family. My grandpa and my dad hunted some, but I was always wrestling during hunting season, so it was never something I did growing up. But I saw you on Instagram, and I was like, okay, this looks sick. Like I'm interested in this, and just seeing you on the driveway shooting or running or killing massive bulls. Started watching YouTube videos, and I wanted to make sure this was something I was really sure about. So I took probably 6 months and didn't like go to archery shop, didn't like do anything, just like kind of thought about it and kept watching film and stuff. And then after that, I was like, all right, let's do this. So I contacted a guy I knew, and he said, you need to go to the Lancaster Archery
get you set up. It's like the best bow shop in the area. So I went over to Lancaster Archery. They hooked it up. They set me up. And at that point, it was late summer, and I was like, yo, I'm all in on this. But I know the type of work that you do. I know, like, all right, I'm not going to be able to shoot some arrows for a month and then go. Like, I'm not going to be ready. Right. So, and I took a whole year. And then after that year, then I was like, all right, I'm going to hunt whitetail. So I had my first bow hunting success. I killed a whitetail in West Virginia. Yeah, on the ground, public land, by myself, which was really cool. I was
That's
like
impressive.
Super pumped about it. Yeah, and I didn't really know, like, I knew. So I never had like experience, right? Like I'd done some hunting before that with a rifle. Like the year before, I was like, okay, I want to hunt. I'm not ready to do archery yet, so I'm gonna I hunted with a rifle, and I killed a bull that first year. Shot at like in Colorado, shot at like 220 yards, and it was awesome. I was like super pumped, but I knew like the goal is bow hunting.
Yeah.
And so then the next year had some success with whitetail, and then this year. This was the year that the first year I was like full, like all in, like setting time aside, really committing to it.
Yeah.
For like
and
taking
you had
hunting
success.
trips. Yeah, I did.
You
Yeah.
killed a bull.
Killed a bull. Yeah. Killed a bull. It was sick.
That's impressive.
Yeah, it was fun, man. I feel like really lucky, really grateful that I'm able to kind of set my schedule with what I do, right? Like after my fight in the summer, Rogan interviewed me. I'm like, listen, don't call me in September because I'm gonna be in the mountains, and I'm fortunate to do that. So I feel really, really grateful. But it's definitely something to me that it aligns a lot with my mentality, with fighting, with I'm gonna get out what I put in, and I know that if I am better prepared, like I'm gonna be, the better prepared I am, the more chance of success I'm gonna have. Of course, there's a wild animal on the other end of that equation that but I try to do everything I can to factor everything in and put myself in good position to have success. And I'm really addicted.
Yeah, well, it's fun. I mean, you're a great shot. We were at the bow rack, and you were shooting your bow. We're making sure everything was dialed in just right. And yeah, I mean, you obviously have put arrows downrange.
I need to work, more. I feel like I get in a groove and I start, shooting better and stuff like that. But I'm really still figuring it out. To me, it's like the same as my career in the UFC. Like I'm learning so much, trying to improve, trying to get better. And that's why I feel really grateful to have been able to come here, hang out with you for the day, go to the bow rack, get, good information, because there's so much information out there. It can be overwhelming for somebody that's a beginner. And that's how I feel about myself. Like I'm a beginner. I'm trying to learn, trying to improve, get better, and put more time in, because that's what it is to me. I know with my mentality and discipline, I put the time in, I'm keep shooting, keep getting better, keep learning, putting myself in situations hunting where I have opportunities to learn and just experience things. Then, the goal is just like, be like you and just freaking kill it.
Yeah. I mean, I have no doubt, because what stood out to me in talking about that, your hunting experience, is like how intentional you were, because a lot of people, they would get a bow and they would shoot for a month, and then they'd go out and expect to kill a big bull with that bow. And you understand that, no, I haven't put in the work. You're very intentional about your timeline, about your goals, and also about that, you're still learning a lot, at the bow rack today. So there's so much. I mean, I learn every day. I learn every time I go hunting. And so when you have that mindset that there's so much to learn, it's so much different than having the mindset of, oh, I know it, I've done this before. You're never learning then. Right. So, I mean, I love your intentionality, and I love the mindset of like, hey, this is, I'm just trying to get better every day. I'm trying to learn every day. You will be, killing more bulls than me in no time. I don't know about
that. This is pretty crazy, but.
Well, you're 28.
7.
Yeah. So I've been doing it longer than you've been alive. So it's like I've had a little bit of a head start.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So like 35 years of bow hunting.
Jeez. But that'll do it.
Yeah. I didn't, a spot and stock, or on the ground whitetail your first year. That's impressive, dude.
So I'm not trying to like talk about, myself, but I do feel like God's blessed me with some type of like talent, and I don't know if you'd call it luck, but I've seemed to just get a lot of opportunities at animals. And I think that all my training in fighting and wrestling and feeling that pressure really prepares me for those situations. Because, like, you know, when I get in a situation where I have a shot at an animal, you know, a lot of people are, I'm sure, and I feel like very calm, very relaxed. Like I've been here before. Like, I don't feel like I had those beginner jitters that most people probably would. So I've been really fortunate. Like I pretty much, you know, been able to kill like quite a bit, right? Like I said, my first year was just training, and I shot a bull with a rifle. The next year I got a whitetail, and then I got a mule deer with a rifle. And then this year I was able to have, you know, quite a bit of success. Got a mule deer with my bow, turkey with my bow, and then a bull with my bow, all in the same month, which was pretty fun. That's awesome. So I feel really, you know, like, I think maybe some people like have that. I've read some statistics where it's like 90% of animals get killed by like 10% of hunters and things like that. So whatever it is, I think that I have good instincts, but again, it's about getting better, improving. There's always going to be, for me, it's going to be a learning experience. It's going to be, you know, a lot of growth and improving, and maybe I'll get like this one day.
You know who doesn't like your ability to get it done is the 90% who don't kill.
Right. I believe that. It's probably not the most fun.
They don't like looking at the new guy killing all the stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, must be nice. He gets to hunt wherever.
Yeah. It's like, dude, well, grow up.
Yeah. No, I think, you know, that dealing with pressure is a big part, because it's like the moment can be too big for people, too much. You know, you think about it all year and you visualize it, and then it's there, and that bull's coming in screaming. That's intense.
It is.
And people do shit the bed.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's just the way it goes. And reps help that.
Yeah.
But also that mindset, you know, like, no, this is what I do. When you have the attitude of this is what I do, it changes everything.
Definitely. Yeah. That's for sure my attitude. And I feel like it's the same as when I'm fighting. I mentioned this earlier, but like when I see a guy's face or his body or wherever I'm trying to hit, like that's just a target. It's not even like a real person. It's just a target. And so I don't know if it's like this with you, but when I have an animal come out, it's like just the vitals. Like I don't look at the rack. I don't look at anything else. It's just like, where does my arrow need to go? Yeah. And it becomes almost, you just zone in. Right. Things happen slow. Like my last bull in archery, I was drawn back for like a minute and 15 seconds. I didn't even know. Really? I had no idea. And then
just in that zone.
Yeah, I timed it on the phone, and I was like, wow, I was drawn for a long time. But I had no idea. Yeah. And, you know, made a good shot and stuff, but it's just like, for some reason, I can just turn off that emotion and that kind of almost like human feeling of panic. It's like, no, all it is me and this target. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That's, I mean, that is kind of a superpower. I mean, because essentially you're eliminating distractions and you're staying focused on the goal. That sounds so easy and it's so hard.
Yeah. You know, well, I can only do it because I spent 20 plus years having to do that exact thing in my sport, right? Like that's what I had to do. And there was a lot of loss and a lot of times where I failed that has allowed me to be able to like and have the mindset to be able to do that, right? Like, it's not like, I don't think people just get up out of bed and do it, right? Like, I just apply what I've put.
Same principles.
Yeah, the same principles.
Yeah, that it makes sense. I mean, it's a proven formula. Well, okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna eat some elk chili.
Yeah.
So that's kind of good, right?
Let's go.
But I did want to just tell people, you know, because I know you have a podcast going. What as far as the Bo Nickal brand, what's going on right now? Where can people check you out?
Yeah, so I got a podcast. It's Nickels and Dimes. Have it on YouTube and Spotify, and just me and my buddy Anthony, who's another fighter, just chopping it up, chatting about mindset and things like that. And yeah, then you can get me on social media at on Instagram, NoBickle1, and then I'm on Twitter as well. But yeah. Come watch some fighting, watch some hunting. That's pretty much what I'm into. So grilling steaks here and there.
Perfect. Well, I can't wait to see your next fight.
Thank you, man. I can't wait to fight.
Yeah, they've been pretty short. So it's like people just get just a small taste and then you win.
Yeah.
And then it's like, God, this guy, I want to see if all this hype's real, but he wins too quick.
Hopefully we'll keep it that way for a couple more at least.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'm a big fan. I have no doubt you're going to achieve your dreams because you have for 27 years. So yeah, again, thank you for coming. You're a true outlier. That's who I want to talk to. That's who I want to learn from. And I feel like I too learn from your mindset and I can apply it to what I do, which is the goal of this show. So thank you for coming to Springfield, Oregon and hanging out today.
Absolutely. Thank you. Appreciate you having me on.
All right. We'll catch you next time.
Guys, it's Cameron Haynes here. I'm going to be giving away this brand new Ford Raptor 2023 fully loaded badass truck. You got 20-inch wheels, 35-inch tires. The tax man loves coming for that money, right? I'm giving away $10,000 cash to offset that for the winner. You get a truck and $10,000 in cash. I want you to win this brand new 2023 Ford Raptor. Enter to win, CameronHaynes.com. Keep hammering.
Every step I take, I move my truth. Every time they tell me stop, I use. Every comment, hate that makes my fuel. Gather up my energy and boom. I hear them talking, saying the way that I move is so reckless. That is a part of my mind I've been blessed with. Giving my blood, so I am relentless. My fault, they want someone to blame. They sent their hate, it fuels my pace. I am Roy Tough, I am the change, the fuel in dirt. Feeling like Cam Haynes.